Hello, my name is Kira and today I'm going to show you how to make these amazing chunky throw blankets. These blankets are my absolute favorite because they're so thick and so warm. Clearly, as you can see, my cats love them as well. It's so easy to make and great for beginners, and it's made completely with your hands, so you don't need any sort of crochet hook or anything like that to make it. Let's go ahead and get started. For supplies, you will need a pair of scissors and a lighter, and then some jumbo yarn. In today's video, I will be using Yarn Bee Eternal Bliss, and this is the color Truffle. And for my blanket, I'll be using about 8 skeins of this yarn. You could use more if you want your blanket to be even bigger, but for like a nice throw blanket for my couch, I'm going to use 8 skeins of this yarn. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of unravel a little bit of the yarn. It makes it harder to make the blanket with the ball all rolled up. You don't have to unwrap it all the way, but just give yourself some yarn. So the first thing you're going to do to start off your blanket is make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, I'm going to wrap this around my hand one time. So I have the end of my yarn over here, and I'm just going to wrap this around my hand like this. And then I'm going to take this piece of the yarn and just tuck it under this loop that we've created here, and then pull this up. You can let go of your hand, and when you pull it tight, it's going to make this little loop, and this is your slip knot. So you can pull this to be as big or as small as you want the loop by pulling on these 2 ends. So if I pull these 2 tails here, it's going to make this smaller. So I think this is a perfect size for my loop. I can fit about 3 fingers in here. So once you have your slip knot, the next thing we're going to do is chain stitches to make the first kind of row of our blanket. So to make a chain stitch, I'm just going to take my finger and my thumb and put them in this hole, and then grab some of my yarn, pull it through, and there's another loop there. So same thing, I'm going to take my thumb and my finger, grab the yarn, and then pull up another loop. So that's 3, now I have 3 loops. Here's 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to continue to like put my pointer finger and my thumb into this hole here, and then grab the yarn and pull up another loop. So I'm going to do this about 30 times. This is going to be the width, like the bottom width of your blanket, so you can do more or less than 30 chain stitches. It's really just up to you on how big you want your blanket to be. And you do want to make sure that your loops that you're pulling up here are all relatively the same size, just so that it doesn't leave any weird gaps when we start making the blanket. Mine can fit about 3 of my fingers in the size of the chain, so that's how big I'm making mine. But you're just going to continue this all the way until you have as many stitches as you'd like to make the bottom part of your blanket. Again, I'm going to make 30 of these chain stitches, and then I will be right back to show you how to start building up and making the rows of the blanket. Okay, so here is my 30 chains that I have, and now from here we're gonna start working up and then working into the top loop from each of these chains. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the last chain that I just made with my pointer finger and my thumb, and I'm gonna pull up another chain, but I'm gonna try to kind of, instead of going out this way, I'm going to just direct the yarn upwards, because we're going to start working up over here now. So there's 1, and then in this next stitch here, I'm going to do the same thing. you can see I'm just going underneath this top loop from these chain stitches that we created. So I'm going to go into this top loop with my pointer finger and my thumb, grab the yarn from back here, and pull up another loop. So now you can see there's 2 loops, and I'm going to continue this all the way down. So again, taking my pointer finger and my thumb, I'm just going to go into this top part of that chain stitch there and pull up another loop. You also want to try to make all of these loops around the same size. Again, mine are able to fit about 3 fingers into them. So I'm going to go again up under this top loop and pull up another one. And I'm just going to continue this all the way down to the other side of my chain. Here's kind of what it's looking like so far. And it'll really start to come together once you get a few of these rows done. So. So I've just gone all the way across my first row, and if you want to make sure that you're doing the same number of loops that you did along this first chain, just so that it makes a perfect square up and down, because if you were to do less, it'll make your blanket kind of start going diagonal. So if you would like, you're welcome to count these loops as you go just to make sure. So I should have 30 loops. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So now we are going to start working from this other side, because that is where our yarn is at right now. And when you get to the end of a row, to go up and over and start the next row, you're going to go into this same loop that you just made and make another loop going straight up. So I'm just going to pull another loop through here, and then you can start this next row, which is going to be the exact same thing that we just did. So you're going to take your pointer finger and your thumb and go into each of these loops that you created and just pull up another loop through them. So I'm going to go in and just pull up another loop through each one. So real quick, I'm just going to finish this row and I'll show you how to start the next one again, even though it's the exact same way that we just did this one. Okay, so I've just finished my second row of pulling up loops, and since this is the last one and we're going to go up and over and go back the other direction, I'm going to go back into this loop here and pull up another one, just like we did before, and then I'm going to go into the next one and pull up another loop, and continue that all the way across the row just like we've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do this until I run out of yarn, and then I will show you how to switch balls of yarn to connect the two ends so that you can't even tell. So I just finished with my first ball of yarn and I've run out of yarn here. So I'm going to show you how you can connect this to a new ball of yarn so that you can keep going on your rows of your blanket. This is what mine is looking like, and here is how the back looks. So where I've run out of yarn, I'm going to grab a new ball of yarn here, the end of it. So here are the two ends that I need to connect together. There are a few different ways to do this. I have been using a lighter to essentially burn or melt this end and then sticking the two together. You can also use a piece of thread and kind of overlap these pieces and then tie a piece of thread really tight around them to hold them together well. Just do whatever you prefer. I think that either method is going to work just fine. So I'm going to take my lighter and just light this enough to where it barely starts to catch on fire like that. And then I'm just going to put the fire out with the other piece and hold them together for a second. It can get hot, so be careful. And then once they've cooled down, I'm just going to take this and kind of roll the ends together so that there's a nice seamless transition here. So now you can't even tell that I've changed colors and it's not going anywhere. So now I can just continue to make my loops on my blanket, and I'm going to do this until I've gone through all 8 balls of my yarn, and then I'll come back and show you how to finish off the blanket and kind of close off the top here so that you're not just left with loops at the top. But you're just going to continue the exact same thing you've been doing all the way with all of your 8 balls of yarn. Okay, so I have just finished using all of my 8 skeins of yarn, and now I'm going to show you how you would close off the blanket on the top so that it's a nice smooth edge and you don't have these loops here. So I've left a good amount of yarn to close this off. I'd say it's like 3 times the width of my blanket of yarn. So to close this off, I just finished my last row like normal, and I'm going to start by making just 2 more. So there's 1 loop and then 2 more loops just like we did in the next 2 loops on here, just like that. And then instead of going on and making a 3rd loop, I'm going to take this here and pull it over the top of the loop next to it, just like that. And then I'm going to take my yarn, and in the next loop I'm going to pull up another loop, and then I'm going to take this one here and go over the top of this next one, just like that. And we're basically going to just continue to do this all the way down. So again, I'm going into the next loop and pulling up a new loop, and then I'm going to take that loop and go over the one next to it from before. Sorry. So we're basically just going to continue this all the way down, and as you can see, this is making a nice edge here for our blanket. So I'm just going to continue this all the way down, and then I will show you how I'm going to tuck in the extra ends that are hanging out on it. So I just finished my last one, and to tie this off, I'm just going to pull all of the yarn that I have left right through this hole, and that will secure the yarn, just like that. And then you can go ahead and just cut the extra off, but you do want to leave a little bit of a tail, and then we're going to secure this tail into the blanket so that there's no risk of the yarn getting untied. So to hide this little tail here, what I'm going to do is just go into a couple of these stitches and kind of weave this tail in and out. And then once I'm at the end of the tail here, I'm going to do the same thing that I was doing to connect my yarn before. So I'm going to take my lighter and heat up this piece of yarn and then stick it down to the blanket. So I'm just going to stick that down right onto there. So here is the corner of my blanket. Don't forget to do the same thing to the tail that we started with. This is from when we made our slip knot, it left a tail. So I'm going to do the same thing here where I just weave this in and out of these stitches, and then I will secure it down with the lighter.
I hope you love your chunky blanket. I would absolutely love to see them, and you can tag me on Instagram if you do make this at Crochet with Kira. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching.